Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Maureen O'Connor from Quilters Heaven in Northbrook, Illinois, and I am the Opinionated Quilter. In today's episode, number 28, I'm going to share with you 3 genius ideas from YouTube. I'm so quick to point out the things that I think people do that are stupid that it's time for me to share genius ideas with you. Before we get to that, I have a couple of housekeeping items. The first is the chip off the old block pattern. Many of you are waiting to get that. I did contact Kathy Brown, and she informed me that the copyright had not yet been transferred to her daughter, which she hoped would be complete by the end of the year. As soon as I get those back in stock, we will contact everybody on our wait list. The second housekeeping item is in a recent Q&A, we had a question about sharpening rotary cutting blades. My answer was I had spent a lot of money a long time ago on purchasing products that sharpened rotary cutting blades, and I found that nothing worked. So I stopped purchasing them. I have not bought or tried one in many years. Shortly after that episode aired, the Idiot Quilter had a video, and we'll have the link below, where he tested 3 different sharpening products. You can watch it yourself. The end result is basically none of them work. So for now, the cost of rotary cutting blades is just a cost of being a quilter. And lastly, as always, you can find me on Instagram at Quilters Heaven Inc. Now for my opinion. I saw a video recently where the pattern called for 3 charm squares, and the quilter starched all 120 5-inch squares, pressed them, and showed on camera how the square shrunk. This is a 5-inch square not pressed. This is the 5-inch square starched and pressed. And you can see how much the gray one sticks out here on the side. It's about 3/8 of an inch shrinkage. So she had to cut all the squares down to 4.5 inches. Now, I don't know about you, but the reason I think most people buy charm squares or pre-cuts is so they don't have to cut. In this quilt video, she cut down all 120 squares to 4.5 inches. Makes no sense to me if you're going to cut after buying a product to not cut. It's up to you. To me, this project screams yardage. Take a few things from your stash, add a few things that make the color palette complete, and go for it. It can be a great quilt, but I wouldn't do all that cutting if it were me. Now, let's get to the episode. The first thing I'd like to share with you is from Karen Brown of Just Get It Done Quilts. She's absolutely one of my favorite channels. If you don't watch her, I would definitely add her to your list. The video I want to cover today is called Stash Buster 6, the no-fail layer cake method. And if you've watched any of her videos, you know that she has calculated the premium you pay for pre-cuts, and she does not like to waste fabric. Who else doesn't like to waste fabric? She does have a video, and we'll have the links below. Pre-cut fabric, 10 things you need to know before you buy. I highly suggest you watch it. But in this video, she gives you 9 different blocks to make with layer cakes, and she goes through the whole system of how you put together the fabric to make it look good. And it's a great video. But what I was most intrigued by was when she got to Symmetry Magic. And what she does is she takes the layout as you're planning your quilt and divides it into 4 quadrants, so that you have to have 4 of each block. So you have 1 in each quadrant, and you do it all symmetrical. So this block is the same as this block, this block, this block. And if there's, one color on the outside and 1 color on the inside, you have to rotate them so that they're symmetrical. and that goes on all the way through so that these 4 would be the same block. But you can watch her video to get all the details. We don't need the details for this video. It's genius though. So as I looked at that layout, I thought, remember the question we had about using test blocks? People have orphan blocks. Could also be used for t-shirt quilts. That's what I thought of. You could use this layout for test blocks or t-shirt quilts. Now, granted, most of you are not going to have 4 test blocks that are exactly identical, but you could group together your leftovers orphan blocks in similar size or similar colorways, and even if it wasn't identically symmetrical like Karen did with the layer cakes, it could provide a really good layout for test blocks or a sampler quilt that sometimes they kind of look mishmashed. I think the symmetrical way would give you a terrific layout. And t-shirt quilts, some are so boring. If you grouped them in same size and maybe light grays and whites to get up to 4, blacks and navies to get up to 4, and laid them out like this, I think you could have a really interesting t-shirt quilt. So I think Karen Brown is a genius. Now let's move on to the next one. I'm going to switch out the whiteboards. This next one is, again, I keep using the word, genius. It's Megan from Tiny Orchard Quilts, and she's another channel that I like to watch. And the quilt that she made, the video is called Magic No Scraps Herringbone Quilt. And she has a free PDF that she links to in that video. And there is just a slight difference in name. The PDF says Zipper Quilt, but I promise you the Zipper Quilt is this video, Magic No Scraps Herringbone Quilt. And if you've ever made a herringbone quilt, or many people call them braid quilts, they end up with a lot of waste. Normally you start with a triangle and you add rectangles to it, and then you end up having cut off, and there's a lot of waste in them. Well, what Megan did is she took 2 braids, laid them side by side, and then sewed together these jagged edges, hence the name Zipper. It was unbelievable. After she did that, I thought, oh, she's done. Now you just square off the end and put a triangle where the triangles would go. But it was like Ron Popeil. Wait, there's more. She then took the braids, and after she's got them 2 side by side, she then folds them like this and sews these guys together. So now she's got a tube, and then she cuts that apart and opens it up. And I think, oh, well, now it's done. No, again, wait, there's more. She then folds, after she's got it flat, all sewn together, she then takes the top to the bottom and sews them together. So then she opens that up and has one whole piece where there's absolutely nothing wasted. If you use a scissors to cut the sides open and the top and bottom open, there's absolutely no waste. If you use a rotary cutter and a blade, there's a waste of tiny, 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 tiny bit. So it is some work to do, but it's amazing. I wonder, how does her brain work that she thinks of this? It's absolute genius. Like I said, we've got the link below. Watch it. Even if it's too much work, you don't want to do it, it's worth watching because it's so inventive. So that's another really good one. The last one I'm going to share with you is Deb Tucker. Now, mind you, I've been saying Deb Tucker's a genius for years. I could pick almost any one of her tools and videos and say, I can't believe she thought of that. How does it work that she can think of these things? But I am going to share with you today the Lemoine Star. I made a Lemoine Star Christmas table runner many, many years ago. And I made 5 Lemoine Star, not 5, I made 8 Lemoine Stars, and only 4 of them were good enough to be in my table runner. I cut the diamonds with a template. I marked the 1/4 inches with a ruler and a marker, so I had a dot where every corner was on the diamond. Sew them all together, and then you've got the triangles and the squares. I pointed to a square. The squares and the triangles, and they're all Y seams, so it was like no fun. Still love the table runner, still goes on my table at Christmas time, but the method of construction was not good. If you go to Deb Tucker's Lemoine Star, and again, we'll have the video link, she has you take a strip of fabric for background and a strip of fabric for star points. And you sew them together, and then you cut with the 45-degree angle to get the 8-pointed star. Now, what's interesting about this is there's 2 pieces here instead of a solid square. There's 2 pieces for the triangles. And I don't mind that there's an extra seam. I actually like that you can have 2 different backgrounds if you want. You could have 1 background if you want. It's entirely up to you. It's your quilt. But when I look at this, how easy this was to do, there's no Y seams. The center meets perfectly. It just went together so much faster, so much easier. And the way it's constructed of how she has you cut your pieces, and then the leftover piece becomes these side triangles. Again, genius. You could watch this video and many, many more of Deb Tucker's and find really smart things that she does. So I hope if you decide to make a Lemoine Star, you do it the easy Deb Tucker way instead of the hard set-in triangles, set-in squares template method that I did years ago. That's today's episode. Please like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, happy sewing.